My, oh my, welcome into another exciting edition of Locked On 76ers. His name is Keith Pompey. My name is Marc Farzetta. And how dare us, Keith? We are supposed to respect our elders. And here we are talking about the young kids running about in the form of VJ Edgecombe and Tyrese Maxey, who at least is out of diapers, and Jared McCain. And we forgot about the Unks, as they're so affectionately referred to. We'll talk about them when we return on this edition of Locked On 76ers.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And this particular episode of Locked On 76ers is brought to you by the wonderful people of FanDuel. Football season upon us. Eagles, undefeated, by the way. Footnote. How about a $5 bet with the great people of FanDuel? And your bet, if it hits, you could win $300 in bonus bets. Download the FanDuel app today to get started. And, of course, we thank you for making Locked On 76ers your first listen every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Keith, I got to say, did you grow up saying Unk, or was this a new thing?
It's kind of like a new thing, yeah. Like, I mean, at that point, you would say Unk to somebody who was kind of like related to you, but now everybody says Unk everything. Yeah,
yeah.
You know what? Maybe, but I used to call my uncle. I still call him like Uncle Ernie, like Unc Ernie. Like I call him Unk. But yeah, but now it's more mainstream, so to speak. You know what I mean? Everybody says it.
I think it was Michael B. Jordan in Creed. I know I'm getting specific. He referred to Sly Stallone, Rocky Balboa, obviously, as Unk throughout the movie, and I was like, I kind of like that. That's cool. And I have let's just say a plethora of uncles and close friends of the family that were referred to as uncle. So I like this term, and I especially like it when there is no relation. There's no blood relation, and it's just a term of respect. Like Tyrese Maxey might call Kyle Lowry Unk, for instance. Yeah. You might look at Jared McCain. You might look at VJ Edgecombe and looking at Eric Gordon as Unk. So for me, I think these are guys that are obviously here not just for basketball ability, although it might be dwindling in some cases more than others. But I look at it as the things that Gordon and Lowry can teach this young group are fantastic. And we've talked a lot about the young guys, but we haven't talked about the older guys on this roster. And I know even before Kyle Lowry was re-signed, even before he was officially back, you had talked about this mentorship from Kyle Lowry with this young core group of guards, and now even more so with VJ Edgecombe. How much do you think that really sticks with the younger guys?
I mean, I think it sticks. I think it sticks a lot. I mean, when we think about it, when Tyrese Maxey had that 6 a.m. workout, who was there with him? Unk was. Kyle Lowry. You know, Kyle Lowry was in the gym with the young guys. And, you know, I think it sticks a lot. I mean, not only that, I mean, we look at Kyle Lowry, you know, he won a gold medal. He won an NBA championship. He's a 6-time All-Star. Is he still the same player that he was? No, he's not. He's 39 years old. But the fact that he's had a successful career and he's the type of guy that, you know, will make sure that Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe and Jared McCain do the things that they're supposed to do. So, yeah, it's vital. And I think it will benefit them in the long run, to be honest with you.
Hey, you're around these guys. I'm not. Eric Gordon, does he carry any of the same type of swagger or same type of leadership that a guy like Kyle Lowry does?
You know, it's a little bit different, but it's similar. And it's different in the aspect that I think that, you know, Kyle Lowry is more of, he's a point guard. He's a leader. He gets in your face. Not to say that Eric Gordon isn't, but Kyle's the type of guy that, you know, Kyle can be the coach of the locker room. He can say some things that, you know, could rub people the wrong way, but it's coming from a great place, but they listen to him, if that makes sense. Like, you know, Nick Nurse doesn't have to say, get your butt in gear. Kyle Lowry's going to say, get your A in gear to the guys and get in their face, you know, stuff like that. The thing about Eric Gordon is, I think the best thing about him is he's a guy who kind of reinvented himself. And when you look at a guy like VJ Edgecombe, it's great because when Eric Gordon, Now, Eric Gordon could always shoot the ball, but he was known as a high flyer when he was in high school in his 1 year at Indiana. They called him, Air Gordon. I mean, I remember there was a game in high school where he played against Michael Jordan's sons, and he dogged them. I'm talking about he was doing all types of moves. But then as he got older, when he was with the Houston Rockets, all of a sudden, he became the spacer. He became the guy that was able to shoot threes and do a lot of things that has enabled him to stay in the league as some of his athleticism has deteriorated. So with that being said, I do think that is vital. Also, there's a professionalism with him, right? He's the type of guy that, when you look at VJ Edgecombe, it's like, okay, this is the work that you got to put in to become a better shooter. Okay, this is how you make sure that you're on time all the time. You do this, you do that. So I kind of think that, having both of those guys are, vital for the team, especially when you have a lot of young players and you need them. Like if you had a veteran team, no. But when you have a bunch of young players, you need guys who are going to be mentors, like we talked about yesterday. Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid didn't have that when they came into the league. So this is a time for not just Tyrese Maxey having somebody in his ear, but for VJ Edgecombe, for Jared McCain to have a guy to say, look, this is what the NBA is all about. This is how you do things. This is how you go about your business.
I think a fair way to look at this is that the guy that is going to be, like you just said, with Kyle Lowry, he's going to be the guy that is going to be more of that vocal leader. But I'm not expecting nearly as much from him on the court. He'll have a job. I mean, again, you've pointed out many times, he's the only point guard this team has. There's no other true, classic point guard that this team has other than Kyle Lowry. But is he going to be around 19 minutes this year? Is he going to be around 15 minutes this year? Really, what does his minute count look like? So with that being said, you can look at a guy like Eric Gordon. Will he have more of the impact on the way this team actually plays the game? Will he, have more of a contribution on the court to how successful this team is with or without Joel Embiid and Paul George? Well, a guy like that could shoot 40% from beyond the arc, 41% from beyond the arc, albeit only playing in 39 games last year. Can Eric Gordon be that guy to have a bigger impact on the court away from any type of leadership capability?
Here's the thing. I think that, in a perfect world, you really, he can come in and help you out in like spot duty, right?
Right.
But, he is 36. But the thing is, I think that he is, I hate to say it, but he might be the best shooter on the team at the age of 36. No, I
agree with you. It's a realization that is upsetting.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. So whereas we look at it, early on last year, I don't know if Nick Nurse was confident in him at all, right? I felt like Nick was one of those things where he looked at him, he saw him maybe blow a couple defensive coverages, he saw maybe he wasn't quick enough to do things that, and I shouldn't say blow defense, he just saw that he was older and he wasn't quick enough to guard certain things, and Nick gave him a quick hook. But then it seemed like when they needed to play him because everybody was injured, all of a sudden this guy started shooting for like over 50% during the stretch from three. And he was playing well because he was getting those extended minutes. Then he got injured, and then we all know his season was, he had the second season that was done. Like at first it was McCain, then it was him who had it canceled the rest of the season. So I do think he can help you. Ideally, though, you only want to use him in certain spots, in certain situations, right? But if you want to win, that's what you want to do. Now, if you're just all about the rebuild, you're going to say, okay, VJ, you're taking his minutes. VJ is going to take Eric's minutes, and then VJ is just going to be, just learning from his mistakes. But if the Sixers want to contend, then in certain spots, you're going to want somebody who is going to help you stretch the floor. And if they double team Joel and all these other guys, who's going to knock down open threes. And right now, I have more confidence in Eric Gordon making those shots than VJ Edgecombe And I believe the 76ers feel the same way.
Mm-hmm. What do you think Kyle Lowry or even Eric Gordon would do in the situation if, I don't know, a player was to spit on another player, like what happened in the Thursday night kickoff last night? That was bonkers. How do you think the leadership of the Sixers would handle something like that?
I think that they would be smart, yo, dude, like, what are you doing? Like, I mean, because the thing is, the thing is, he spit on the guy, and we look at the footage, we look at everything, and now they're saying that Dak spit on him, or he didn't spit on him, he spit in his direction, at him, right? But we all know, like, you learned this in Little League. You always don't want to be the guy who responds. The guy who always reacts is always the ones who gets the flag or gets ejected, right? Mm-hmm. And the thing about the whole spitting situation, like, we all know that that's the worst thing that you can do to a person is spit on a person. Like, like, that's worse than holding off and socking somebody, because you cannot defend someone spitting on someone. And the bad part about it is it happened on national television, and now you have even diehard Eagles fans criticizing this guy, right? But if you're the leader, you're veteran, you're like, look, man, you got to. And the one thing that I respect the Eagles for doing is they made him be held accountable, hold himself accountable at the end. Like, now we all know he was coached up, but there's a lot of instances where a guy gets ejected, and then when the media gets to the locker room, oh, he left already. He left during the game. Well, no, he was at his locker room waiting for the media, and he addressed the situation, right? Now, if you're Kyle Lowry or Eric Gordon, you have a talk for him and says, look, dude, we know you're embarrassed. We know what you did is inexcusable. You know that. But you may probably even get suspended. But we support you. But you can't do this. The team is bigger than you. You can't do this. We love your aggression. We love everything. But at the same time, you have to be smarter. Because let's think about this, Mark. In the Super Bowl, there was a play where he basically shoved the quarterback, Pat Mahomes, in the face mask. They didn't call anything, right? They didn't call anything, right? So, you can see, like, at times he can be a little bit reckless. And I think their leadership would be like, look, dude, you're not bigger than the program. And, you almost cost us the game because, all of a sudden we just saw, for at least in the first half, you saw Dallas just getting in and as many yards as they wanted up the middle. So, I think that's where that type of leadership comes into play, for what the 76ers are going to do. They'll make sure VJ Edgecombe doesn't, explode or go left on somebody.
Yeah. And Jalen Carter has a history, and I've heard plenty of things from the Eagles locker room that just like, they got to make sure that they keep this guy under wraps. VJ Edgecombe seems to have a phenomenal head on his shoulders. And I will also say this. I feel like if it was Kyle Lowry saying it to anybody else that, spit on somebody or, just to use the example last night, I feel like Kyle Lowry would be the first to go, guys, I do the stuff Dak was doing all the time. I instigate all the time. The trick is, Keith, what you were saying, don't be the second guy. By the time the second guy is doing anything, the attention from the officials is already on you. They're not paying attention when I instigate. I'm Kyle Lowry. I know how to do this. Don't play into that person's hands on the other team, because I'll be busy stirring the pot over here for the 76ers. All right. So we talked about the Unks, the older gentleman here with the Philadelphia 76ers and what their role could be. By the way, Eric Gordon is going to turn 37 in late December. So for the second half.
Christmas.
He's Christmas baby. Yeah.
He'll
be 37. Yeah. Right after that. So Kyle Lowry, of course, 39 years of age.
Third oldest player in the NBA. Third oldest active player in the NBA. Yeah.
Wow.
But when you look at him real quick, like people are saying, oh man, what is he here for? Well, just look at him as like James Johnson. James Johnson, who played for Indiana Pacers last year. He didn't leave the bench. There's been other guys who played on teams where even Marquise Morris, when he was with the Dallas Mavericks and last year with the Lakers after he got traded, these are two veterans who basically, are there and they just keep the locker room together. I mean, we got to understand something now. You have 15 players on the roster, right? 15. Then you have 3 two-way players. So there's nowadays what they're doing is they're using the spot for someone to keep the team together, a veteran. And that player typically gets a minimum salary. So it's not like they're wasting a lot of money, but you do need someone there who can be an extension of the coach on the floor.
We talked about a phrase that's been coined and become a lot more popular recently, that term "unk," to use it one final time. There's another phrase, Keith, and I hate it. And I hate that it's out there. I hate that everybody uses it. And I hate that everybody talks about going after it. I'll talk about what that is when we return. And it also has to do with Ben Simmons contemplating retirement, as we talked about yesterday. Talk about all that and more when we return. This is Locked On 76ers on the Locked On 76ers YouTube channel. Like and subscribe. Back after this. How about FanDuel? You guys having some good times on FanDuel? FanDuel has all you need this NFL season. Makes it fun and makes you get extra ready for kickoff. Even making non-Cowboys Eagles games, for instance, all that much more exciting with FanDuel. Love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, even jumping in as live action unfolds. It makes every game that much more exciting, whether you're watching your team play or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little bit more energy to those Sundays or game days in general. So what are you waiting for? Download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. And new customers, don't forget about this. Bet $5, and if you win, you'll get $300 in bonus bets. Download the FanDuel app at FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel.com. The bag. It's all about getting the bag. And I get it. I don't hold it against anyone to make that money. I don't. I like everything that's going on in college sports right now with athletes being allowed to make money, NILs, their Instagram accounts, whatever, social media influences. Good for you. Make that money. You can make the money. Make that money. This is America. That's one of the things that you're supposed to do in this country. Go for it. But here's what I don't like about the sports world, and it's even more so at the professional level, is I listened to a guy like Jeff Teague. Now, this has gone a bit viral now over the last 24 hours. And Jeff Teague was talking about the idea of Ben Simmons retiring. We talked about this at length throughout yesterday's episode about whether or not he would retire and why it shouldn't be shocking that he could retire or will retire. And that is to do with the fact that he's got injuries, the fact that he's dealt with a lot in his personal life over the course of his NBA career, and the fact that he has already made over $200 million in his NBA career. So as it gets talked about with you and I, and then of course gets talked about by many other outlets in the next, so many hours after our show, the term bag comes up. And it's like, oh, Ben Simmons, and this was kind of the mood of the show with Jeff Teague. It's like, yeah, he should be done, basically, is what Teague is saying. A 12-year NBA veteran, by the way, a one-time All-Star and a champion with the Milwaukee Bucks. He's saying, yeah, he should walk away. Like, you already made that money, $200 million plus, $203.5 million, actually. Why would you keep on pushing? And you would really, really have to want it. You'd really have to love it, the game, to come back and play again. And the whole thing that surrounded this conversation was, yeah, Ben should be done because, man, that's a great NBA career. You don't really do much, but you made $200 million. Way to be, And I hate that part of it because I want to watch players that are trying to be the best they can possibly be. I don't want to watch guys that are just all about getting rich and it doesn't matter if they gave less than everything they should have given during their NBA career, that they maximize their potential or not. Like, I want that to be the currency. To fans, that's the currency, not whether or not no one's ever going to go, man, I loved watching Ben Simmons make $203 million. That was great. Like, that's nobody's rooting for that. And I hate that it's more in your face now than ever.
Yeah, and but that's the thing about the NBA. It's weird. You basically, it's a culture where players get judged by how much money they make. Like, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, you're a max dude, you're getting max money. You're on it. You're the guy. Like, you're basically the leader of the locker room. You're the man. If you're not making a lot of money, it's weird. Like, you're not the guy anymore. And some people, let's be honest, is kind of hard from going to being the most sought after guy by the media and everyone else, being a focal point of a team, to coming back and basically getting a camp tryout to make a team for the minimum that's not guaranteed. And you walk in the locker room, and aside from people asking you, why are you playing or why are you trying to make a team, they really don't have any conversation for you. So it's you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, absolutely.
It's like that syndrome. It's kind of like a retired football player or basketball player who goes back to the stadium or goes and walk in the streets and no one like recognizes them or they treat them the same way. You know what I mean? It's a little different. I get it. And I know what you're saying. But here's the question, though. I think it's different based off of who you are and how much you love the game. Like, I always got the opinion.
You're talking about for the player? You're talking about for the player or for the fan?
For the player.
For the player.
Okay.
No,
for the player. Like, I always got the opinion that, and this isn't a knock on Ben, but I didn't know if he really truly loved basketball. It was all about the money, the fame, and all this and that. And he's not from America. Ben Simmons, I felt like if Ben Simmons is playing basketball because he was 6'10", he was extremely athletic, and he was powerful on the court. Aside from that, I felt like Ben would probably be doing something different, right? And that's not a knock, and I feel the same way for about not a lot, but several of these European players or players from, because he's not from Europe, but several from these players from overseas, right? They come here because of the money and the money that they can make. And the fact that he's not going to make a lot of money and he's not like going to win a championship, probably not. It's kind of like, well, why do I want to continue to do this? So
yeah,
it's a different dynamic. And I understand where you're saying like, oh, I don't like it. But when you think about the NBA, it just seems like there's a lot of guys who they're chasing the bag. I mean, think about it. The NBA is the one league where, and it's crazy how we do it. You look at it and you see a guy who goes to a Bobo team, like a scrub team.
Yeah. I know where you're going. Yeah.
He gets a lot of points because of that, right? So, and we're all guilty of it. So you get a lot of points, and because you get a lot of points and this and that, all of a sudden, oh, well, yeah, he's playing really well. Maybe he should make the All-Star team. Or like, oh, well, he's like third in the league in scoring. Now, his team only won 20-something games, but he's third in the league in scoring. So what happens? They make third team All-NBA. And because they made third team All-NBA, they get a Supermax deal, right? But then when that player goes to a reputable team or a contending team, they can't cut the mustard. And then all of a sudden it's like, wow. And to me, players know that. So what do? They prefer to go to a Bobo squad as opposed to playing on a legitimate squad, at least early on, because all they want to do is stack that paper. And then when it's time for them to retire, they'll say, well, you know what? I made over $200 million or $300 million, whatever. Now it's time for me to go play and be the last man on the bench for the Golden State Warriors, for the Boston Celtics, for the Oklahoma City Thunder now. And it's just that's just how it is in the NBA, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's just something that just hits my ears terribly. Like I look at the whole reason you took VJ Edgecombe over Ace Bailey, and it has to do similar to what you said about Ben Simmons. And there are guys in every sport that just either happen to be big, whether it's basketball, they're tall and they're athletic, and that's a great combination for the sport of basketball, obviously. And they fall into it for whatever reason, and they go, oh, wait a minute, I don't even have to really love this, but if I just dedicate some time to this, I'm going to excel past a lot of other people, have a shot to play at the NBA. Oh, wait, I could be the number 1 overall pick. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do that. Oh, and I can make $200 million? Okay. That, to me, is the perfect example of people that love what the sport brings them, but not necessarily love the sport. And that's how Ben Simmons. That's how Ben Simmons always seemed to me. And that's why yesterday when we were talking about the off-the-court stuff and all the personal issues and the half on-the-court stuff between Doc Rivers and Joel Embiid, completely throwing him under the bus for the pass to Thibault and all that stuff, I still think even if everything went perfect in his career, everything was hunky-dory on and off the court, and he steadily got better and better, he still wouldn't have reached his full potential because I don't believe that really, truly mattered to him. I think he loved a lot of the things that the basketball game brought him, but he didn't love the basketball game itself.
I agree 100%. And you're completely right with the Ace Bailey situation. Yeah. Ace Bailey was chasing money and fame over championships right now. That's what it was. That's exactly what it was. And that's the NBA player. That's what it is right now.
And when I hear the guys on Teague's podcast talk about, oh, Ben Simmons, great career, he's an all-timer, that kind of thing, for essentially just making money, like, I get it. That's a goal of everybody. But to have that be the judgment of whether or not you had a good NBA career or not, as someone who was suffering through it with the fans, that just always will hit the ear horribly, Keith. It'll hit the ear horribly. Yeah, it's just one of those things that'll just never seem right to me, unfortunately. But it does make me a little bit more excited for that young core that the Sixers have right now, aside from Joel Embiid and Paul George, and have the Unks here to tie in the opening topic to help nurture that new culture along. And that's ultimately what I look forward to, what's down the line for the Sixers. All right, when we come back, we'll do our quick Grimes watch, and then I want to get to this commenter in a second. We'll talk about that and more when we return. This is Locked On 76ers after this quick stoppage. Quinton Grimes been signed yet? Has Quinton Grimes?
I'm here. Nah. But you know what? There is some track. Remember we were talking about we got to wait to see what happened?
Yeah, you mentioned Cam Thomas yesterday.
Yeah, we mentioned Cam Thomas. Now, all of a sudden, so Cam Thomas, and then, we were always talking about the situation in Golden State, but it seems like Kuminga doesn't want to play there. So the word that happened earlier is that now the Chicago Bulls is starting to make some traction or trying to. So Josh Giddey was reportedly offered $88 million over 4 seasons. So I feel like if Josh Giddey accepts that $22 million per, then all of a sudden that sets the market, because everybody was at first initially waiting on Kuminga. The Bulls are like, look, we can't wait. So the thing is, if Giddey gets that, I think the next thing we know is now the Sixers could look at it and say, okay, well, Josh Giddey did this, he did that, you didn't do this, but we feel like you're worth that. So I think there will be a common ground, right? Because I think Giddey always wanted around that. So 22, that's a lot. I don't know now the thing is, if Josh Giddey gets 22, you're not going to pay Quinton Grimes 25 per. So you know what I mean? Like he may get 18, 19, maybe 20. I don't know, but you're not going to give him 25 per because, you say Giddey is a vital piece of that team where you're looking at Quinton Grimes to be the fourth option.
Fair enough. I want to get this comment in here. I believe this is Michael Israel. Hello. 76ers fan since 82, Cowboys fan since 81. I don't like the Eagles. Sixers fan since 82. 82, they went to the championship and won. I know that all too well, being that my name, again, was inspired by the acquisition of Marc Averoni that August. That's how that's implanted in my brain. And then the Cowboys, they lost that year in the conference championship game to the 49ers. So I guess that's a half bandwagon jump for you. All right. Good for you.
But here's the thing. I really want to know. And so here's the thing. I really want to know how old this guy is, right? Michael, because we got to understand something. I mean, well, he said 81. I mean, the thing now, my man said Giddy won at 30, so that's pretty cool, Reggie. So now it's 22. My thing is we got to understand something. Like, I'm a little bit older than you.
Here we go,
right?
53.
And people know. So my man's 53. So I'm 54. Okay, OG, I'm 54.
All right, Unc.
So I understand where he's coming from. See, people got to understand this. Like, when I was coming up, no one, my man's from Patterson. Hey, do you got a brother who played college football? He's answering questions. So here's the thing. So you got to understand something. When I was coming up, no one, everybody's like, E-A-G-L-E-S, Eagles. Nah, bro. Back when I was coming up, it was all about the Cowboys and the Steelers. That's what it was in Philly, right? You know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong. Some people love the Eagles, but it wasn't like how it was now. It was always one of those things where people were that way. But then they stopped in marketing. Like, when you would go to Modell's or go anywhere and try to get a helmet, unless it was a plain old white helmet, Mark, I'm being real, it was a Steelers or a Cowboys. So everyone was rocking it. So you can see how people became fans of that. Then as the years went by, it changed. But I'm just saying, like, it depends on your age. A lot of those people in their 50s and up were all about the Steelers and the Cowboys. That's all it was, man. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah,
then you come back, and now they're like, the Eagles. I'm like, stop it, bro. You told me you were a diehard Steelers fan or a diehard Cowboy fan, so I get it.
Yeah. Giddy wanted $30 million. He's a starter. Yeah, he'd start on a bunch of teams. Yeah.
22, that's about right. Like, to me.
I can see it.
That's a lot of money, though. That's a lot.
That's getting that bag. Ugh. Anyway, his name is Keith Pompey. My name is Marc Farzetta. We're just counting down the days now to Abu Dhabi. We're counting down the days till training camp starts for your Philadelphia 76ers, and it'll be here before we know it. Make sure you guys are checking out all things Locked On Sports, especially Locked On 76ers. Like and subscribe. And how about this? You want to be the most informed NBA fan? Then make sure you guys check out Locked On NBA podcast, where there is no offseason. Doug, Matt, and Hayes. They get you up to date on contract negotiations, rumors, and everything you need to know to be the most informed NBA fan. Find the Locked On NBA YouTube show on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. He's Keith Pompey. I'm Marc Farzetta. We'll be back with you guys on Monday to break down a whole weekend's worth of 76ers material. See you guys then. Bye.